to Love the Movie Troy. This is Troy, and this is the channel where we talk about movies. So look, check me out. Now, a lot of people been wondering, friends, a couple of fans that I have, Troy, why haven't you been doing your YouTube? You talk about movies on there. It's been a lot of movies that came out, but we haven't heard nothing from you. What happened? Did you lose the passion? No. Listen, it's a couple of things, but this video I'm here to talk about the main reason. The main reason for me is that, the movie industry is in this weird place right now. And it's in a place where I don't know if I'm as in love with this version of the movie industry. You know what I mean? Like, I'm in love with the way things have always been, but with the rise of the streaming services and comic book movies, which I love very much. I love comic book movies. Anybody that knows me know I love comic book movies. But the oversaturation of them is starting to shift. It's starting to shift the whole, how should I say it, movie industry. So let me break down, what's going on and why I'm sort of losing the passion. But at the end of the video, I'm going to talk about why I still have faith and hope, and why that I'm happy to start talking about movies again. So, one of the big problems I think that's ruining the movie industry is the rise and the birth of streaming services. Streaming services as a whole is potentially gonna take cinema away. It's gonna ruin cinema as we know it. And I'm not here to bash streaming services, because I actually like streaming services. And if used properly, streaming services can be very successful. If used right, streaming services can just take the place of a lot of studios. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I've accepted that, hard form of media is going away. I could accept that there's not going to be Blu-rays and DVDs and things like that. That's just a part of change. And now stuff that used to come out on Blu-ray and DVD now is going to start going straight to the streaming services. I'm cool with that. But the problem I'm having is that a lot of these streaming services, they benefit, they think they benefit by making original content and dropping it on the streaming service. In terms of movies, shows, it don't really matter. Television shows are a bit different. I'm not really talking about television shows right now. I'm talking about movies. This is Love the Movie Troy. You know what I'm saying? So we're talking about movies, but they feel like it benefits them for their streaming services to make the content, to make the movie and then drop the movie on their streaming services. And the reason why that's kind of starting to ruin the cinemas and starting to ruin, the movie industry is because the more and more movies have to be made on streaming services. Like, that's the only way a great filmmaker could get his movie made, if one of these streaming services green light the movie. The problem with that is that now you're getting less and less movies in theaters. You're getting less and less movies in theaters because, hey, they might have a theatrical run just to be eligible for the Oscars, so they'll have like a 2-week run in a select amount of cities that you didn't even know they were playing in. For the most part, they're going exclusively to these streaming services. Netflix come out with a movie, it's going to Netflix. Disney Plus come out with a movie, it's a Disney Plus movie. Well, a little less. Disney Plus a bit different. HBO Max, Amazon, Apple, all these different streaming services, they're saying, okay, let me make this movie and make it exclusive to my streaming services. This is good content, so this is why I'm gonna do it. What the problem is the more and more movies that don't show up in theaters, the more and more movies that are gonna be forgotten about. You know, the theatrical experience is so crucial to the movie industry. It's everything. And the reason why it's so crucial is because it makes a great movie, a rememberable movie, a part of pop culture. It don't be just a movie that come and go. It don't be just a movie that, oh, that was good, what's next, and never hear about it again. You know, when it's in theaters, a movie has to have a theatrical run. You know, it has to have a build up, a marketing build up. It has to play in the theaters and you experience it on a big screen and you remember it. It's more rememberable. You know, the theatrical experience, if nothing else, is to help these movies stay rememberable, stay a part of pop culture. So many movies you could, you know, bring up and it's like it's stamped in pop culture. People remember it forever, whether it's The Matrix, whether it's Pulp Fiction, whether it's Wolf of Wall Street. Like, it's so many. Jurassic Park, I can name a shit. There Will Be Blood.
There Will Be Blood, bro. Like, remember when the dude brother acted like he was his brother and everything, and like I don't know if y'all seen this movie. It's one of my favorite movies, but that's me, bro.
All these different movies that Django, I could just go on and on, that a lot of people will recognize and remember. They're starting to get dropped on the streaming services with thousands of movies where a lot of people didn't even know it was out. I'm gonna give you a good example. Roma. You know, Alfonso Cuarón's Roma. You know, it's one of the greatest movies of this generation, in my opinion. It won for Best Director. It won a few Oscars, man. The movie was Best Cinematographer, Best Foreign Film. Roma was amazing. Roma got buzz because of the Academy success, but for the most part, Roma's a forgotten film. Roma's a forgotten film. You know, and if you look at something like Parasite that came out, had a theatrical run, it's a foreign film, that's more stamped in pop culture. More people have either seen that or know what that is. You know, because it had that theatrical run. You know, so it you know, or another example, David Fincher's Mank. David Fincher is one of the more popular directors, one of the more acclaimed filmmakers ever. And every time he has a movie out, it's a very memorable movie. It's a very rewatchable movie, a movie that is stamped in pop culture. Well, his last movie, Mank, came out, and this is a movie I was looking forward to. I didn't know it was coming out on Netflix. I heard about it a year in advance, or some years in advance, and I was waiting on this movie, and I'm just looking through Netflix and I see the movie on Netflix. A David Fincher movie. And it's been out for like 3 or 4 months at the time. And I was like, wow, I didn't even know David Fincher had a movie. This is the same guy that did Social Network. Everyone knows that movie. The same guy that did Gone Girl. Everyone knows that. Seven. Everyone knows that movie. Right? When David Fincher does a movie, it's stamped in pop culture. But his last movie, Mank, no one even heard about it. Including me, a movie fan, a fan of David Fincher. Right? So, and the more and more that these movies have to come out on streaming services because studios won't greenlight them, the more and more movies are going to get lost in transaction. And it's not people... It's a reason why the Oscars viewership has been going down more and more, because it's starting to be less and less movies that people are excited about from earlier in the year. Oh man, I remember when I seen so and so. I can't wait to see if it wins. Oh man, this movie's getting, like, it's a bunch of movies a lot of people have never even heard of. The Oscars is literally how you finding out the movies even exist. Like, oh shit, there's a movie called Isle of the Dog. Wow. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of people don't even know they exist. And it's because they're not having theatrical runs. They're just dropped on a streaming service. And studios are starting to not greenlight these movies no more, because they're like, okay, you know, we're just trying to make comic book movies. That's where we know we can have some success, in the comic book realm. So we're only greenlighting comic book movies. So now when you get a great filmmaker, you know, like an Adam McKay, his only choice to get his movie made is to go to one of the streaming services and ask them, hey, can you greenlight this movie? The studios don't want to do it. Okay, well, if I greenlight this movie, it has to show exclusively on my streaming services.
Major studios wouldn't touch it. Netflix, however, was all over it.
It's a whole new game out there. Yeah. We don't know where this is going to go. The fact is that this film is made by Netflix. They stepped up, no interference, none, allowed us to experiment with the CGI, all of that sort of thing.
And if they hadn't, it never would have gotten made.
No, it never would have gotten made, because they don't want to make the pictures I want to make out there. It's over. It's finished.
Would I ever want to do like something that wasn't a franchise? For sure. You know, the thing about the world and the way it is now is most likely that would have to be in the streaming space. And I'm sure that I will do something like that. I would love to. There's actually a project that I wrote that I've still yet. I was a movie that I wrote that I wanted to make when I was just before I did Cloverfield. And it was a really personal film that had a kind of Hitchcockian side of it, but again, was very, very personal. And I didn't end up getting to make it. It fell apart. And the chance then came to do Cloverfield. So I took that and I made that as...
It might, you know, debut in theaters for like a week so we could qualify for the Oscars. But outside of that, you know, it has to be exclusive on the streaming service. And that is, I'm telling you guys, it is ruining the movie industry. It's ruining the movie industry. And listen, I love comic book movies. I do. But comic book movies are also starting to ruin the industry, because it's an oversaturation of them, to the point where a lot of people are starting to not know what cinema is anymore, because the only thing they see on the big screen, for the most part, on a huge level, is comic book movies. And the reality is, there's a lot of good comic book movies, but there's a lot of bad comic book movies. And if that's all this new generation is starting to see, they're not going to the movies and being able to see a Lord of the Rings, or going to the movies and be able to see a Matrix, and going to the movies and see a Terminator, and going to the movies and see just a bunch of unique, different shit. It's like, if all they're doing is going to the movies and seeing the same comic book movies, some bad, some good, people are going to get lost, you know, out of touch of what's good cinema. I'm seeing it more and more. You see a great movie like Dune come out and you got people, oh, it's boring. Well, no, because you're used to a movie that has action every 10 minutes and no substance. You get a good movie like The Batman come out, oh man, it's boring. Like, people are starting to not understand what cinema is anymore. But there is a lot of hope, right? And the reason why I come in this video enthusiastic, more than you may believe, but very enthusiastic, is because I don't feel like all these streaming services are sustainable. I think they're all going to crash and burn, except for, it's going to be like maybe two. It's going to be like maybe 2 or 3 winners, where when the dust is cleared, they're still going to be standing, but most of these streaming services are going to crash and burn. And I truly, wholeheartedly believe that. Mainly because they have to go into so much debt to produce a lot of this content. And I don't feel like the return is going to be good enough to sustain it. I think everyone doing it because they're playing monkey see, monkey do. Oh, this is successful. Let me do it. This is successful. Let me do it. Right? And now they're playing monkey see, monkey do. But then they're going to run themselves to the ground. They're going to spend billions of dollars and not going to be able to recoup that money. Mainly because of piracy. A lot of movies that come out on streaming services, you could go to websites and literally find the HD version on a free website. You know, the piracy is literally like, I don't see how. See, when a movie come out in theaters, you're not going to be able to find an HD version of that movie anywhere on the internet. It's going to be a sloppy, shitty version. And when you're really excited about it, you'd just rather pay for the theater. But if, just say, I don't have every streaming service, I don't have Amazon, right? But Amazon comes out with a good movie someone wants to see. Well, that person can just get on a website and watch that movie for free. And I'm not saying they should do it. That's not right. Piracy is wrong. But I'm just saying they can do it. And I think piracy is going to, contribute to the death of streaming services, but also these other streaming services in competition with each other. Everyone trying to spend so much money to outbid, or not to outbid, but to outdo the competition. Oh, I'm Apple, I'm gonna spend so and so. I'm Amazon, I'm gonna spend so and so. I'm HBO Max, I'm gonna spend so and so. And eventually, they're gonna start spending so much money, but not get. I mean, we're already seeing it with Netflix. Netflix is burning down as we speak. And partially is because they always spend so much money, and it's not sustainable with all the competition that they have and the piracy that exists and the cancellation of shows and movies that people want to see. And Netflix is slowly burning to the ground. They're like the first victims of this. Now, I don't think streaming services as a whole is going to be gone. It's going to be a few that last. I mean, Amazon and Apple going to last for a while because they're a multi-billion-dollar company without any form of media. They're just already built in. And so they have a lot of money to lose before they decide, all right, I'm sick of this shit, I'm done. But the streaming services that aren't a multi-billion-dollar company without media alone, like HBO Max, like Netflix, like Peacock, a lot of these, I'm telling y'all, they're gonna go away, I believe. And I think it's a good thing, not for a certain company to, bankrupt, but just for the balance of the movie industry. I think streaming services are great, and they have their advantages to help the movie industry. But if the only way movies can get made, original movies can get made, is through streaming services, then it's gonna ruin cinema as we know it. So it has to, be a balance. And I say all that to say it's made me less enthusiastic about movies as I used to be. And that's why I haven't been talking about them as much. It's been other personal issues as well, but that's the main reason why I haven't been talking about movies. But listen, the more and more I go to the movies, the more and more I'm starting to see exclusively in theaters, because a lot of these streaming services are starting to see for them damn selves how much money they're losing by putting these movies straight to streaming services. We're seeing movies go from being exclusively released on whatever HBO Max to get moved to theaters. We're starting to see other companies, they're realizing that this is where we can make our money, in the theater. And so I'm starting to see more and more of that. I'm starting to see, what I love back on the big screen, and that has been making me happy. So I am excited, and I'm ready to start talking about movies again. I just had to give my 2 cents on what I feel about the state of the movie industry right now, and will it bounce back? It's not completely gone, but will it bounce back? 2019 was the best year since I've been watching movies. It's the best year since I've been alive that I can remember watching movies. So many great movies come out in 2019, and they all came out in theaters, and they all made a shit ton of money. That's why I was so confused. It's like right after 2019, it was like that was the last year. It could be partially because of the pandemic, but it was almost like 2019 was the last year of normal movie experiences. With Ford v Ferrari and Knives Out and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and just so many great 1917, and I mean it was a Parasite, so many great movies that all debuted in theaters that made a shit ton of money, and they were original. So I hope the movie industry can get their foot out of their ass and get back to what we do. All right, well, that was just my 2 cents on that. It was good to be back, good to talk about movies again. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe if you like the video. Thank you everybody for listening, and I'm out. Bye bye.